Hello, this is Ben with social media at Tiffin University, and welcome to the TU Podcast. Our goal for the TU Podcast is to get you connected to the information that you're going to need to know to make the best decision and the best fit for a university for you. Each episode, we're going to be joined by one member, sometimes two, of the Tiffin University family and have them share a little bit of their expertise with you. Let's jump into the studio for today's conversation. Welcome to the TU Podcast. Today, we are joined by President Schumacher. We are excited to have her here with us, and she is going to be sharing with us a little bit about CCU. Welcome, President Schumacher.
Thank you, Ben.
Can you tell us a little bit about, I guess before we dig into it, tell us a little bit about you. I know that there will be people that are listening to today's episode that may not know that much about Tiffin University. So could you share just like a 1-minute overview of who you are and what you do here?
Sure. So I'm the 6th president at Tiffin University. I started here as president in 2016. I've been with the institution for 10 years now. Time flies for sure. And a little bit about me. I've been in higher ed. I've been in higher education for over 25 years now. I was a faculty member for many, many years, and then really aspired to lead an organization, and have been in this position for over 4 years now. It's a wonderful place to be. This institution is amazing. Here in Seneca County, we're extremely global. Believe it or not, just because we're located in the middle of cornfields in a community of about 17,000 in the city of Tiffin, we are really a global enterprise as an institution. I'm very proud of that. I grew up all over the world. I am the firstborn of immigrants to the U.S. Before I was born. I'm first generation American, and one of the things I always admired about our institution is we are extremely diverse, and there are lots of opportunities for us to really capitalize on a laboratory of learning, just given the diversity we have at Tiffin University. So I know from personal experience that having to live abroad in a place where I was really a minority, growing up as a young woman really transformed the way I thought about diversity. And given the fact that we really have the environment here to learn what diversity and inclusion is about, really was important as part of my presidency to make sure that we really took advantage of at Tiffin University.
So you came into your role, and one of your first big initiatives was a thing that we call CCU, but was officially called Celebrating Cultural Uniqueness. So could you share with us a little bit about what is CCU?
Absolutely. Really simply put, Celebrating Cultural Uniqueness is Tiffin University's response to diversity and inclusion. Mm-hmm. So that is really the overarching commitment of what CCU is. We'll get into some details of what it means at Tiffin University, what the students actually gain from it and benefit from it, but it is really a commitment at Tiffin University to do our best with responding to what diversity and inclusion should look like today.
So I would imagine that there have been some challenges along the way, and there's probably been some incredibly exciting things along the way. So because this is a relatively new concept in higher education, what has been the biggest challenge of this whole process so far?
There have been many, and this is going on, or we'll be into our 4th year now, of this commitment. When we started this effort, we called it an initiative. So Celebrating Cultural Uniqueness was an initiative when I started as president in 2016. It's now become a commitment, and I'll share with you why that is. But what's really, really important about what CCU is that it really started as an organic kind of evolving process. And one of the greatest challenges we had was really to figure out what we meant when we talked about diversity. And for some, diversity is a very positive word. For others, diversity is not a very positive word. And so what did we even mean by words that we were choosing? And so one of the reasons we struggled and eventually came up with the tagline of Celebrating Cultural Uniqueness is we really wanted it to be about our ability to share who we are and share our identity from the perspective of inclusion. And that was really, really important. So this whole idea of uniqueness became a big part of what this initiative was all about. It took us a while to get there. It took us about a year and a half to kind of get through the messiness of having this conversation around diversity and what we meant about it. And there were many disagreements, and there were some uncomfortable conversations about what we meant by these words that we were choosing. And so it took us, like I said, about almost 2 years to really feel comfortable with it and then turn it into what we now call a commitment. And it is really embedded in the institution's fabric today. And what I mean by that is it is embedded in the curriculum. So starting with our last incoming class of the fall of 2018, every single undergraduate student at Tiffin University goes through a set of curriculum through its Tiffin core. So when students take classes like humanities and culture and English and world history, we now have a very intentional curriculum around cultural diversity. So students actually graduate with a set of competencies that prepare them for the world that is today very diverse and very full of complexity when it comes to making decisions around diversity. So our faculty actually created a framework of competencies that included things like the ability to tolerate ambiguity, for example. So how do we teach students and how are they able to demonstrate the ability to tolerate ambiguity? How do we teach and demonstrate that students understand how to negotiate? How do we teach and demonstrate that students understand emotional intelligence? How do we teach and demonstrate that students really understand what it means to start from a point of difference? Those are some areas where we really focused in on how can we create curricula that speaks to that and then creates the ability for students to demonstrate those skills and competencies. And that's what our faculty have done. So that's pretty amazing that our institution has not just created a commitment around diversity and inclusion, it has really embedded it in the curriculum. So for example, a lot of institutions, when they look at diversity and inclusion, will make sure that there is a study abroad opportunity for students, or that students experience some sort of immersion experience. What we've done is we have those opportunities for our students, but we've done is also then embed it into the curriculum. So again, our students graduate with a set of skills that they're really able to demonstrate around diversity and global diversity and inclusion.
So let me ask you a question, I guess, from knowing that we have 3 different schools at TU. So what would that look like for, let's say that you want to come for accounting or you want to come to be a police officer? What does that practically look like for those prospective students, or how would it help them?
So first of all, every single student, regardless of their major, takes that same core of classes. And so that's really important because that's the same curriculum no matter what a student's major is. And then what happens is it's reinforced in every major. So whether you're a law enforcement major or an accounting major, you are going to have courses that then focus on that and reinforce those areas. So for example, in an accounting class, students may look at different kinds of accounting practices that are used throughout the world, and how do they differ from what's used in Western societies, for example. So that's one very practical example. In a cybersecurity or a law enforcement or a criminal justice type of field, students would look at how are different set of cultural norms accepted or not in different cultures. For example, in some cultures, bribery is actually an expected transaction when it comes to law enforcement, for example. And so obviously in the U.S., it's completely forbidden. And so really looking at different values and different ways of being and doing across different societies would be another example.
Wow. So no matter where you're coming, the whole classroom setup will be aimed towards helping you to become more skillful with no matter who you're working with.
Right.
Wow. So overall, I guess up until this point, we've talked about what's been the most challenging part, but what's been the most exciting part? What's been the most satisfying part for you in your role?
Seeing it come to life. And I think, seeing it really, really transform the way we deliver our education at Tiffin University. Our students believe in it. Our students live it. Not only is it happening in our academic curriculum, and that means our faculty have embraced it, which is amazing, but our students are exhibiting the different competencies of diversity and inclusion, CCU at TU, in our organization. So all the extracurricular activities. If you look at some of our performing arts groups, you will see evidence and example after example of how they're celebrating cultural uniqueness in their performances through the songs they're selecting, through the way that they're actually performing. Those are some examples. In some of our student organizations, you'll see events planned around different themes like Hispanic Month and Black History Month and some of these other themed activities that come to life throughout campus. And so we really, truly are very unique in our approach to how we've decided to commit to what diversity and inclusion means at Tiffin University and for every Tiffin University undergraduate student.
So speaking of undergraduate students, I know that there are a lot of parents and high school students or those that are looking to go back to school to maybe get a graduate degree. So for those prospective students, what does that mean for them? What does CCU offer at Tiffin University that they might not even see addressed at other universities that would become maybe a deciding factor for them?
I don't think there is another institution out there that is doing what we're doing today with diversity and inclusion. We have embedded it in our curriculum, as I said, and you're not going to find that anywhere else. And so the advantage for a graduate of Tiffin University is that they're going to have a deep understanding of cultural diversity and be able to demonstrate that. And what we've promised our students is that every one of them will be able to graduate with a set of skills that prepares them to work in a very complex global world and be able to be very innovative about solving problems. And so what does that really mean? That means that they are going to feel more comfortable with the uncomfortable. They're going to feel more comfortable working in an organization that might be multinational or might be in inner city Detroit, where you're dealing with a lot of different cultures and backgrounds. These students are going to be better prepared for those complex environments. And you think about our world today, we all need these skills and we all need this ability. And our students are going to be able to demonstrate those skills and abilities in the workplace. You're not going to get that in another institution.
Very cool. So one of the things that you had noticed earlier, or one of the things that you had said earlier, was you had talked about CQ. And I know that that's a really cool topic, but maybe not everybody listening knows what CQ is. So could you tell us a little bit about what is CQ and why is it such an important part of CCU?
Yeah, so cultural intelligence is what CQ stands for. And one of the things that became very important as we were moving from CCU as an initiative to CCU as a commitment is that, we're talking about how our students are going to be able to demonstrate these skills. We also needed to be able to prove it. And the best way to prove it, in addition to, course outcomes where a student will be able to demonstrate it in respective courses, as I highlighted earlier, we wanted to have some sort of assessment that really captured very collectively the skills of what we're talking about or the competencies of what we're talking about. So we recently partnered with the Cultural Intelligence Center out of Michigan, and they really have done the best research around cultural intelligence, and that's what CQ stands for. And so we are assessing every single student when they first get here as a first-year student. They take the CQ assessment in our DEC class, our Dragon education core class. And then they take it again as a senior. So they take it in the DEC 100, and then they take it again in the DEC 400. And we measure the difference in their knowledge, right, between their first year here and their fourth year here, because that keeps us accountable to our curriculum.
That's cool.
Right? And so you should see a significant increase in CQ from the time they're a first year student to the time that they're a senior. And that's going to really help us stay accountable to saying that we're doing what we say we're doing.
That's really cool. And I know that there's a good amount of the staff that are going through the training so that they can also grow. So I don't know if you would know the exact number, but how many staff and faculty have gone through this training so far?
So we have just under 300 employees at Tiffin University, and every single employee will go through this training, because if we expect our students to obviously gain these skills, we need to make sure that our faculty and staff have the training and understanding that they need as well. And so we created a certification on campus called Building Cultural Competencies in Organizations. It's all around the CCU framework and cultural intelligence. And so every single participant does take the CQ in this as well. And so far we have put 2 rounds of faculty and staff and students. Actually, we have students that are selected to be part of this certification along with our faculty and staff. And so far we have 126 employees that have graduated and have this certification, and we're going to start our new cohort this fall. Okay. And again, we'll have a cohort every year until all of our employees complete the certification.
That's very cool. So everything that you're talking about, I would imagine that it's difficult to take it from an idea to making it part of the vision to actually living it out. But it sounds like if you have half of your staff and faculty going through it, then those that are working in res life to the coaches to the teachers are all able to look at innovative ways to solve problems. That sounds like an exciting thing and a great way to make it come to life. So let's talk for a minute about alumni. I graduated from TU in the mid-2000s, and I know that there's a lot of graduates that look through and go, man, this is a really cool concept, and maybe I'm, or maybe another alumni is working in a field where they are getting to work with people from different cultures, and it's a struggle to them. And they look at it and say, like, this is something that is attractive to me. So not wanting to go back and start a bachelor's degree, how could they benefit from that at Tiffin Universities? What different ways could they get plugged in to maybe certificates or graduate degrees or things like that? Do they have opportunities to do that as well?
That's a great question and great timing. So what we decided to do, so if you look at any organization today, everyone is looking for training and understanding around this topic called diversity and inclusion. So what we've done is we took what we created for the certification for our employees, and we have adapted it. And now we have a certification in place that we're going to be offering to the public, including our alumni. We just finished pilot testing it with a group of employers and alumni that we asked to take this and really critique it and give us feedback on it. We completed that process. Now we're in the process of going back and updating and editing the certification. And what we are going to be offering that this fall, starting this fall. So alumni, organizational leaders, organizational participants, anyone who would want to take this certification can sign up to take it through the institution. And we're offering it in 2 formats. We're offering it in a virtual format where individuals can sign up and they can be part of a virtual environment that is over 3 weeks to complete the certification, or they can actually sign up for in-person certifications that we will have throughout the year. So yes, indeed, anybody who is interested could be part of this and learn more about it.
Very cool. So the last question that I have for you before we wrap up is that in your role as president, I would imagine that this has had an impact on you. So how does this whole process from start to finish, how has that had an impact on you, like in your role of what you do, and what effects have you seen from it?
The role of a college president is extremely complex. You're never going to make everyone happy, but it is still one of the most rewarding positions I could ever imagine doing. And when an individual who's in a leadership position looks back on her career, you want to make sure you've made a difference and that you've left some sort of legacy behind, and that your hope is that you leave the institution better than the way in which you found it when you started. And so I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. However, what's been really cool about this is to see it come to life and to see so many individuals embrace it. Because it's so complicated and so complex and, oh, by the way, so difficult to do. By nature, human beings don't like to talk about uncomfortable conversations, and they don't like to be uncomfortable. And you have to have a sense and a basis of trust and seeking first to understand for this kind of dialogue to work. And we've figured out a way to do that at Tiffin University. It's taken us a few years, but any good effort takes time. And so it has been extremely rewarding and very humbling to see it come to life and to see it stick around, because it is a commitment and it is not something that's going away. It's something that has become and will continue to be part of the fabric of Tiffin University. That's pretty special and pretty rewarding to me.
That's really cool. So wait, one more thing. Let me ask one more question. So as you talk about moving forward, what does it look like? What's the next phase, or where does this go from here?
So the other thing I haven't mentioned is we started a PhD in global leadership and change last year. And it's really neat to see that whether you're an undergraduate student or now with a terminal degree or a PhD, we really have integrated this theme of diversity and inclusion, or global diversity, through our educational system and our educational process. So the next step needs to be, or will be, looking at our graduate programs. So we have lots of graduate programs at Tiffin University, master's level programs. And so the next chapter of this commitment will start to look at how do we now implement this into our varying master's degree programs. Some are a little easier to do than others, but what's really, really neat about this is the hardest place to start is with the undergraduate curriculum, and that's where we started. So, moving it now to the master's level is going to be pretty seamless for us. And the fact that we also have it at the PhD level really completes that full circle for us at Tiffin University.
Very cool. Well, exciting stuff. Thank you. I know that this is right up your wheelhouse, and it is a great topic for us to talk about. And so thank you for joining us today, and thank you, everybody, for listening. Have a good one.